This is Figures Sold Separately, episode 206, all of DC's new Marvel movies, August 13th, 2018.
It's the truth! Your principal can't smile, can't swim, can't rap, and I can't stand bubble tape. Your school bus driver can't drive, wears curlers, makes funny noises, won't try bubble tape.
No way, Jose!
Bubble tape, it's 6 feet of bubble gum for you, not them.
Hottest new video game coming down the pipe.
Pipe or pike.
Matt made us start over.
God damn it! Stop breaking the fourth wall. I guess it wouldn't be a fourth wall.
Because we got into a discussion of what that expression means. But anyway,
I say it's pike. You say it's pipe. It can be both.
Anyway.
It comes down a pipe. Shit.
It's true. But what I'm playing now is Spec Ops: The Line. And I've just recently started it, and it's one of those games that we've talked about it on this show before, but none of us have ever played it. But it's an Xbox 360 game because we don't talk about games that came out this century.
Why do you even have an Xbox One? Like every game that you talk about
to play my Xbox 360 games on, in glorious HD. But Spec Ops: The Line is one of those games that starts out as like a typical military shooter and then kind of becomes something very different. And it's kind of an interesting thing, so I recommend it. I'm kind of brain breaking here, but I'll keep you guys posted on future episodes of kind of whether I have the ultimately cerebral experience that a lot of people have with Spec Ops: The Line.
It's an awakening.
Kinda. I mean, it's considered it makes a lot of like top one. Is one of the ones that always comes up in like the games with best stories lists.
Do you have this on disc?
I have it on. I have it on digital.
Oh,
I have digital.
So I might want to borrow it from you then.
Yeah,
I'm going to be looking for something new.
Do you have Far Cry 5 on disc?
No, digital. I'm pretty much all digital.
See? They should let us. I
got Wildlands on disc.
They should let you lend. They should let us. They should let you lend. Games.
I mean, they should. Only one person should be able to play it at one time. But you should be able to lend stuff for sure.
That'd be cool. I'd like to. Because there's games I'd like to play, but I don't think I necessarily need to own. So, but yeah, it's supposed to be pretty cool. It was on sale, might still be on sale, but it was on sale for like $10. So you can. The nice thing about 360 games that came out a long time ago is you can pick it up on the cheap. And
yeah, I just bought Red Dead 1 for $15.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's I'll kind of keep you guys posted on how that goes. I'm not usually a big war video game kind of guy, but I've had about 5 or 6 years of everybody telling me you just really need to play this game. It's fun. So we'll see.
How percentage wise, how far would you say you're into?
Oh, like 10, like 5.
So you've already made a decision. It's a great game just from the first 5%.
No, I haven't.
You're just going off what other people.
I'm just going off what other people have said. Yeah. Gotcha. So I mean, it might live up to that, or it might be one of those things where I'm just way too. Like my expectations at this point have gotten blown way sky high, but we'll see. What about you, Matt? What are you, other than GTAing, what are you up to?
When I'm at home, which is not terribly often these days, I like to watch. I'm rewatching Battlestar. I'm in season 3 right now.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Of the rebooted. Early 2000s
the
series.
1979 version only went for a season.
Yeah, it didn't have.
Well, but then it had the sequel series and
we don't talk about that.
Yeah, that's like somebody talking about the Buffy movie. Come on.
We're not going to talk about Battlestar Galactica 1980.
That's like after,
or there's another one too.
That's like after MASH.
Yeah, no.
Where it's like,
oh my god,
after MASH.
No. But the big thing I've been doing recently is I've really been getting into pub trivia. I already go out. It's kind of my way to go out with my friends and kind of do something fun. I go to a place called Mad Anthony's in Waynesville, which we might. So the guy who owns it's a huge nerd. He's a huge Firefly fan, and there's a lot of low key Firefly references in the what do you call it? The ambiance of the place. But it's one of those craft beer places that just has like 50 things on tap, and they change and they rotate them around, so you can always find a really good beer and enjoy a beer. Do some pub trivia. We usually always come in third out of like 12. We've won once, but they have like good food, and basically it's my every week I'm going to spend $30 in beer and wings and like have some fun at pub trivia. We're getting ready to start up a second one, which is at Boojum, which is another brewery, because in Western North Carolina, we have our fucking breweries.
How many people on a team?
It varies.
How many can you have, and how many do you have?
You can have a max of 8.
Okay.
Generally, we go in there when our roster is full with 5.
I want to go.
Oh, you can come on over.
Cool. Let's do it.
My friend Erin came over, and she did it with us. They do 5 rounds, and 2 of the rounds are general knowledge, and then the other rounds are generally on some type of topic. Like they did all things cold.
I'm like immensely competitive in pub trivia. So just
there are a lot of college professors from Western that come to this one. So there are some
fit right in.
There are some rough teams. Like it's a rough crowd.
So everyone's a know-it-all because it's a trivia competition. So
yeah, but it's a lot of fun. And we're going to start doing
of pop culture stuff.
Some, yeah.
Because that's where most of my useless knowledge is. So
yeah.
I watch entirely.
That's
too
not
many
even
YouTube
true.
videos.
It's not even totally in pop culture.
No.
Anytime they go on sports or music, we don't do very well.
Oh yeah.
Ken's not going to help you out in those 2 categories.
Yeah, and then
music maybe.
They did one that was all 80s trivia, and I basically carried the team to like second place. Like we almost won. And then the next week they did 70s trivia, and we just we did so badly that we just left. Because it was just like, we're not going to play this anymore. Because like I was the only one on the team who was even alive in the 70s, and I was like 3, so it just didn't work.
So not a lot of solid memories from that time.
No, very few.
Got it.
But yeah, pub trivia, a lot of fun. Been enjoying it.
Good. That's awesome.
Cartoon.
I've been continuing to cultivate my garden, and it's going really well. I am absolutely so in love with succulents. And
Quite contrary. How does your garden grow?
Really, really well, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, I have a.
It's a hypothetical question, Cartoon.
No, I'm going to answer it. It's going really well.
Okay.
My garden growing. Yeah, I have like a whole bunch of little succulent pups. They're doing really, really well. The whole biodynamic gardening is still going really well. It's really cool to see like the change in the plants during the different seasons. And I'm reading a couple of books.
Is this all indoor, or do you let them?
No, outdoor.
Play outside? Well, what do you do in the winter?
I do let them play outside, yes.
Well, what do you do in the winter? Do you bring them inside, or do you just let them follow a natural course where they die and then come back?
Some of them I will bring inside. Some of them I'll just kind of let go. Okay. And some of them are self-seeding, which I will allow them to do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'm also reading 2 pretty cool books right now. One is Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel, which is pretty awesome. It talks about like the need for security and like adventure in relationships. Pretty awesome.
Cool.
So it's not a book literally about raising animals.
No.
Okay.
No.
We haven't started raising livestock yet.
Yeah, no, we haven't started raising livestock.
Or pandas or whatever.
That's probably coming down the pipe at some point.
So I'm digging that.
Yeah. What? Any movies?
No, not really.
No movies.
Oh yeah, wait, we are. Yeah, I've been watching all the Mission Impossibles. Ken has been helping me. Yeah, round out my Mission Impossible.
The movies, not the
experience.
TV series. Yeah.
Oh yeah, not the TV
series.
series.
Technically, the movies are a sequel to the TV series, but not really. So
yeah,
it's a re-imaging.
It's like the softest,
in like a super blasphemous kind of way.
It's like the softest of reboots, where or like the where.
Have you watched that TV series though?
Occasionally.
That first season, at least, I only got to the first season.
I've watched.
It holds up.
I've watched a certain amount of that. I've watched a certain amount of the '80s reboot because they did do a continuation in the '80s with the same main character with Jim Phelps. And then of course the movies. A lot of the old school fans don't really like the movies because one of the first things they did. Spoiler alert for the 1996 Mission Impossible, but.
Oh my God! Was it that long ago?
Yeah.
20.
Holy shit!
22,
right?
22 Tom Cruise
years.
has been making those movies for 22 years.
Wow.
But one of the first things they do is take Jim Phelps, who's the star of both the 60s and 80s Mission Impossible series, and make him to have been like turns out like he was the traitor the whole time, and so a lot of the like old school fans were like, that sucks, and they got kind of pissy about that. But.
Yeah, because that's a terrible thing to do. That would be like if they rebooted Buffy, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, and made Buffy a villain.
Well, but it was one of the things where
she was a vampire the whole time.
I would love that. But
oh my god, no, you wouldn't.
But the idea of I get why fans were not okay with that, and the original actor, that's the reason he didn't come back, because it was John Voight played that role in the original or in the '96 movie. But the reason the original actor declined to come back and play that role was because of the script. He didn't like the idea that his character was being retconned into a horrible.
I really enjoyed that show. It kind of got weird in the second season because they changed the cast around.
Sure.
And then it was like they kept being like, oh, well, we're in Monaco. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're in the Hollywood Hills. Like, it's like, come on. Like, everything's filmed in Los Angeles.
It was pre-internet when they could be like, we're in Monaco. And like, you didn't know any better because you didn't know what Monaco looked like.
I know.
Like, you've never seen a picture of Monaco.
But they like, sometimes they wouldn't even bother
you go to, like,
to change the road signs.
You go to like your Encyclopedia Britannica and like pull out the M volume and like look up Monaco.
Wait a minute, Monaco's in the desert. This isn't the desert.
You're a phony.
Yeah. Well, it's like MASH was supposed to be in Korea, and like where they filmed MASH didn't look anything like Korea.
Well, but after the first Mission Impossible movie, Tom Cruise purchased that franchise and owns that franchise.
Tom Cruise himself, like the actor, bought the entire franchise?
Bought the franchise, because now, ever since then, it's been very much a movie series about Tom Cruise doing crazy stuff.
Stunts.
And it's
breaking his ankle on film.
Yeah, well, but it's pretty much not, hey, lay off the ankle breaking jokes.
You're just upset because he has a way better ankle breaking story than you do.
Yeah, his is now mine.
Okay.
But it's kind of exciting in its own right. It's kind of in the Fast and the Furious sort of vein, where like they're action movies that really don't take their stories very seriously, because Mission Impossible, even the TV show, didn't really play it completely straight. Like, it kind of knew it was silly and like a sort of almost a pastiche of espionage stories. And
it wasn't in the first season. That was really kind of later on. Like, go back and watch that first season. It's very serious. I really dug it.
Sure.
But,
okay, we'll add that to the list.
But it was a very formulaic series in the terms of it usually was tricking some bad guy into doing something, and the movies are very similar in that regard.
It's American James
But the
Bond.
movies always have Tom Cruise either like running up the side of a building or jumping long distances or holding onto the side of an airplane as it takes off. And Tom Cruise does, as the marketing never lets you forget, he does most of his own stunts, which is, I can only imagine how expensive he is to insure. But he's his own producer, so
he drinks a lot of Ensure.
So that's his problem.
Motherfucker's old.
He's starting to show his age. He's in his mid-50s, and he's in very good shape for being in his mid-50s.
He's wearing it well, guys.
I'm going to say, dude is still amazing. Like, go watch on YouTube. Go watch James Corden and him skydive to promote the most recent movie. Fucking hilarious.
Well, we've not seen the most recent one yet, but by all accounts, it's the best one of the series.
He learned to fly a helicopter for it, so he could do his own stuff. It's ridiculous.
But I think it's in that Fast and the Furious vein now of like it's really just it's not designed like these movies are not supposed to be good. They're supposed to be awesome, and they can sacrifice good in favor of awesomeness every single time. So. It's kind of like
a spectacle.
Spectacle.
What do you call it, Ken?
Don't be a creep. So, good times. I'm Ken at MultiverseAVL on Twitter, and to my left,
I'm Cartu. You can find me on the Instagrams at cartu.d2.
Hello, ladies. I'm Matt at NCMattJ928.
The podcast stud.
At NCMattJ on Twitter, at NCMattJ828 on Instagram. There we go.
And you can follow Figure Sold Separately on Twitter at FSS Podcast and just about everywhere else. Figure Sold Separately on Facebook. And
you can follow our mascot pup, Gertie, on Instagram. Hashtag
Gertie Gangsta.
Gertie Gangsta.
You just need to give her own account.
It's
No, that
follow that
sounds like
shit.
a lot of work.
I'd follow that shit.
Well, no, Instagram does let you do multiple accounts.
I know. I
which
have
is
2 of them.
way easier.
I know. I have 2, and
So
I never do.
thanks
it.
if you're a regular listener. If you are, then make sure that you are subscribed and make sure that your friends all know about us and listen to us too. Like force them, like find them and force them to listen to us.
Not force choke them.
Well, because it'd be nice.
Force them.
Because one day, maybe around like our 300th, 400th episode, we might actually like land a sponsor or something like that. So it'd be nice to have some listenership when that happens. But anyway, so we are Figure Sold Separately, and we're coming at you today with a bunch
We're
of San
coming at
Diego
you.
Comic-Con stuff. We're only about a month behind, so everybody listening to this, if you're the sort of person who listens to this show, you're the sort of person who already knows everything we're going to talk about today, but we're going to talk about it anyway.
We're going to
Yes.
give you our
Because
unique opinion.
You want to know
Yeah,
what
we got
think.
a lot to say.
You want to know what we think about these things.
Do you want to know?
Oh, God. So, lots of trailers, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
That's always where this kind of thing happens. First and foremost, I just can't help but notice how hard they are really still trying to make this DC. Well, it's not the DC EU anymore. It's the Worlds of, what do they call it? Worlds of DC.
Really? They
finally
rebranded it?
Well, they never branded it in the first place.
Oh,
so
goodness.
Now it's Worlds of DC.
Everyone keeps telling DC what they're doing wrong, but they just don't want to listen to anybody.
Well, and I don't. What's Worlds of DC? Like that shortens to WOD WAD. Like it's not the MCU. Like is kind of you kind of rolls off the tongue.
MCU.
is it
The
DC?
MCU.
Now, I'm not a big comic book person.
Not that Marvel
Is it-
Cinematic Universe isn't like a really clumsy thing to say. It is, but
Is it DC that did the multiple Earths, the multiple worlds, or was that both of them, or was that just
well, DC.
like Earth 325 or whatever?
I mean, both of the comic series have done things like that, where there's this concept of like a multiverse, but there's not a. I think one of the more popular opinions is that sooner or later they will do something like that to sort of soft reboot the DC universe, maybe potentially in the Flashpoint movie that's coming up, so that they can wipe the slate clean and sort of start over without having to go. We screwed up and nobody likes our movies.
But that's not the thing they're doing wrong. Like they're trying to like, oh no,
Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously, the reason Marvel works is because they're all in the same universe, and it's like, no, you're not. No, that's not what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like first of all, it doesn't have to be dark, brooding, and raining and color free.
Yeah.
Not colorful, color free in like literally all of your movies.
Right. Which is one of the reasons Wonder Woman worked, because they at least had part of that movie that had some color saturation and everything was, I mean, it might have just been at the beginning when they were on the island, but, and then they tried to do that with Justice League, but everything was just orange.
Yeah.
Like I just remember that movie as a giant orange blob. Like it was so forgettable that I don't remember a single detail of Justice League.
I don't either. I can't remember what happened at all.
You know the other thing I would do with DC, and this might anger a lot of like really hardcore DC nerds, is get rid of the Metropolis and this takes place in Gotham City. Just fucking have it take place in Chicago and New York, like so it's more relatable. I guess
I disagree.
Yeah, you see, that's what
But
I'm saying.
I'm not like
hardcore
a
DC
I'm not a
nerds-
Wait
hardcore
for
DC
it.
nerd.
Wait
But I'm not a
for it.
hardcore DC nerd. I just think like that's like Superman being in Metropolis is kind of like a big part of Superman.
Just
Where would you put Superman? In
New
Chicago?
York City.
New York City?
Gotham City is obviously Chicago. Metropolis is obviously New York. I mean, just have them be in those cities, and not have to like, because then you're constantly
does
like,
Clark-
well, what
does-
city is Gotham City in anyway?
So
Where's
does
it
Superman
located?
does Clark Kent still work at the Daily Planet, or does he work at like the New York Times?
That would be fucking awesome.
Is he still Clark Kent, or is he now?
No, you can still be Clark Kent,
Yeah, is he now?
or just have him work at like the New York Observer. Like, just make up a fucking newspaper. It's not that
But
big
that
a deal.
newspaper doesn't exist, Matt. How
Yeah,
am I
but the
supposed?
city does.
I don't buy it. I think this is too far fetched. and in fact, I don't think he should be Clark Kent. He should be Anderson Cooper. And so now
Those eyes are an
so
national.
now
treasure.
Anderson Cooper is Superman. There's your movie right
Silver
there.
Fox right there.
We're gonna pitch a new movie idea every episode.
We laugh, but watch. We're gonna get stolen.
Well, but they are trying to lighten it up a little bit, apparently, with Shazam. which with Zachary Levi, which looks like it could be interesting if they do it right.
Previously played by Sinbad in an alternate universe.
Yeah, something like that.
No, have you heard that theory?
Yes. The Mandela effect thing.
Yeah, the Mandela effect. Yeah, go look that up, everybody. It's really interesting.
Yeah, so...
There was never a movie called Shazam with him in it.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers it.
So
crazy.
But this is the Captain Marvel movie, but of course they can't call it Captain Marvel because they don't own the rights to that name anymore. Marvel does. So they call it Shazam. They call the character Shazam. And,
wait a minute. Captain Marvel was a DC property?
Yes, originally.
What?
Well, Captain Marvel and DC both had characters called Captain Marvel at the same time, and then of course, as time went on, and
there were different characters.
They were different characters, yes. And then as time went on, and character licenses became something that anybody cared about, because back in the 60s and 70s, like nobody cared if you had two characters that had the same name at different publishers. Like as long as the readers could keep it straight, it was fine. But then,
Marvel needs like a Colonel DC then or something.
But then things started. But you have to remember that when DC was first rolling out Captain Marvel, he was originally part of another company called. And God, I didn't even know I knew all of this, but there was another comics publisher called Fawcett Comics who actually invented Captain Marvel. But DC absorbed all of Fawcett Comics, and Fawcett became part of DC, and all of the characters did too. And one of those was a character called Captain Marvel. But of course, at this time, Marvel Comics wasn't called Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics changed its name to Marvel Comics in the I want to say 40s. So
we're going way back. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of these characters, but Captain Marvel was a knockoff by Fawcett Comics of Superman, and was sued by DC, or was sued by DC, and then eventually acquired by DC. And so now you have these two characters who are very similar, and they're both in the DC canon. Even though one is, one began life as a knockoff of the other, and now they are both in the Justice League, and ta-da. But
my biggest question is, when are we going to get a Captain Canuck movie?
I don't think that'll ever happen.
Yes,
right?
Bring it on.
But the Shazam movie is, and now that character's called Shazam because Marvel won the rights to Captain Marvel, the name, and but for a while, yes, you were right. They had each publisher had a character called Captain Marvel. But
my brain hurts now.
I know, mine too.
But during that time, nobody cared because back then the rights to a comic book character were worth like nothing.
Yeah.
And then they started doing
loaves of
but then
bread.
They started doing things like making movies, and suddenly people started caring who owned what characters, and here we are. Like it's tough to think of a time when like nobody gave a crap what you did with like Iron Man and. Like you could, like now it's like, man, you better, like Disney owns that now. Like you better step off.
That's why we got all of those Bollywood films with all of those, with Spider-Man and Superman fighting crime together.
But now, and then doing a dance number.
Yeah.
But
it's Bollywood, of course.
But there's but the Shazam movie, we saw the trailer for it, and it's kind of interesting looking, but it's a DC movie, so it could be horrible.
I love that that's everyone's first. Oh, it looks kind of cool. Oh,
but
you see the DC logo, and you're like,
well, but this looks like their first sort of stab at the Guardians of the Galaxy-esque kind of, we don't take this very
their
seriously.
First stab at the Guardians of the Galaxy idea was Suicide Squad.
But that wasn't even intended to look like, tonally.
Yeah, no, it was intended to look like it.
It was intended to be sort of like lighthearted, because I didn't see anything really lighthearted tonally in Suicide Squad at all.
No, but it was
very dark.
It was intended to be like off the beaten path, like the kind of weirdo stepchild of the universe.
But what I mean is tonally, they're stepping off of they seem to be wanting to absorb some of the criticism of it being very dark, of their universe being very dark and gritty and gloomy, and doing this character as the conceit of Captain Marvel, Shazam, for people who don't know this, and I think this is one of the most interesting things about the character, and I'm glad they're kind of leaning into this, is that he is a 12-year-old boy, and his secret identity, he is like his true self is a 12-year-old boy, but when he transforms into Captain Marvel / Shazam, who is a buffed, beefcake of a super. Which I was, before he was cast as Black Adam, I was really hoping Dwayne Johnson would be cast as Captain Marvel, because I just think he would play that like a 12-year-old boy.
He would do that
living
so well.
in like
Well, because he is a 12-year-old.
well,
boy.
but also because, in my opinion, the more of like a giant beefcake you cast as this character, the more of like the more mileage you get out of sort of the wish fulfillment aspect of this character, which of course was the point of this character in the comics, was that he was his own sidekick. Yeah. Whereas Batman had Robin, and Robin was like the kid identification character. Like, I'm going to be Robin, and I'm going to go, like, if I can't be Batman because I'm a kid, I could be Robin, and I could go on adventures with Batman, and so I can relate to that character. Whereas Captain Marvel was very much like, no, I could be that, because I would then turn into an adult and turn into a superhero.
So it's kind of like the premise of Big, but as a superhero.
Almost exactly that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the humor can be played the same way, which is one of the reasons I thought
the same jokes,
which is why I thought Dwayne Johnson would be really good. I'm not thrilled with the casting as much as I like Chuck. They cast Zachary Levi, who is in a muscle suit, and clearly
Wait, he's in a muscle suit for this movie?
he didn't do like the Chris Pratt thing where he just got super jacked himself. Like, it really.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
I'm looking it up because that's super disappointing.
I think Dwayne, you know why Dwayne Johnson or The Rock, you know why he would have been a great casting choice? Is that The Rock has shown time and time again that he does not take himself or his persona, his image, all that serious.
Agreed.
And he is fine with making a fool of himself and doing goofy things. And that's what I love about him.
If you want to pause for a second, I'll show you the trailer for a minute, and then
I've seen the trailer.
Oh, you've seen the trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I just didn't. I wasn't putting two and two together until.
I mean, it looks like he got kind of ripped, but I don't know if that's all him or not. It's just kind of tough to tell. So,
it's all him.
I mean, he kind of looks a little bit like an itty bitty head on top of a not at all his body.
Yeah, I know. And well, also he's ridiculously proportioned. Like, there's not a lot of people that would be that proportioned like
that's
that.
true.
Like, it really does not look like that's his, like, he's really that buff. But like, part of the joke is supposed to be that he's personality wise and everything, he's this tiny little kid, and I think that's. See it. I mean, yeah, I'll definitely see it.
I mean, I'm getting roped into seeing The Meg.
Yeah.
So
well, I'll probably wait.
I'm so excited about that.
I'll probably wait for it to come. I'll probably
God.
wait for Shazam to come out and see kind of what the first reactions are, and then decide if I'm going to go see it.
Don't do that. Because you know how fucking nerds are, man.
Well.
Go see it. Make your own decision.
Okay.
Because I swear to God, you can never. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's the Meg?
It's the Megalodon movie.
Oh,
it's like Jaws on steroids.
Yes, and I'm so it's just going to be so much fun.
It's like
I'm gonna
Deep
eat, like,
Blue Sea with a giant shark.
Yes, and
Deep
I'm
Blue
going to
Sea had a giant shark.
No.
not like this. It didn't.
No, this is the Megalodon.
Like,
this
I'm
is
going to do the whole experience. Like, we're going to do the theater. I'm going to get fucking popcorn. Like, it's going to be
Why would you go to it? Okay. Do we want to go into the movie pass thing?
No.
Okay. We're going to stay off that?
Well, we can talk about it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's why you would go to a movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my friend who lives up in Boston, he posted a picture of a sign that said the theater that's showing The Equalizer 2, the air conditioning is broken. Sorry for the inconvenience. And I'm like, that's literally the whole reason I would come to a movie theater in the summer, is so that I can sit in a nice, cool, air-conditioned theater and watch a movie. Like,
oh my gosh.
Why would I watch this movie in a sweaty, nasty theater with a bunch of other people? Like,
yeah, no, thank you.
We did get an Aquaman trailer, which looks like somebody combined Wonder Woman, which is their only really successful movie up to this point. So it looks like somebody took like Wonder Woman and Thor and what was the Black Panther?
Yeah.
And sort of smushed them all together and put them underwater.
I have a question on this because I don't follow DC movies. But I do remember that Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the guy from Star Trek or Stargate Atlantis. That's how I know him.
Okay.
He was
It's a deep cut. You're like one of those guys.
That's a
like,
deep cut.
You're
That's like the first role he ever had.
You're like the Rolling Stones, the guys that sang, and you like mentioned like some B-side from the '60s, and it's like, God, Matt, you're either a bad nerd or you're like the super hipster.
How am I a bad nerd when I know him from like a really nerdy like
Stargate
property?
Atlantis,
Yeah, there you go. But like, did he? Did
you liked him before he was cool? We get it.
No, actually, I didn't really like his character on Stargate Atlantis. So we've already seen him in a movie, right?
We've seen him in Justice League.
Okay, but he hasn't had his own movie until now. Because I've been seeing him and his picture pop up a lot more on Facebook, and I was wondering. I was like, "Oh, are we going into another movie?"
Yeah.
Or? Okay.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think the Marvel. A lot of people are hemming about, like, one of the greatest tragedies was the fact that Marvel back in the 90s had to sell off a lot of their characters, or the film rights to a lot of their characters in order to keep the company afloat. And a lot of fans lament that as like a giant tragedy. And I disagree, because I think one of the things that has worked against the DC universe is that they didn't build it the way that the MCU did. Like Marvel, they started with Iron Man because that was one of the biggest characters they still could make movies about at the time. And by starting not like, if they had owned all of their characters, the first movies we would have gotten in the MCU would have been Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and they would have launched from like that platform and tried to get as quickly as possible to the Avengers, which they would have it would have been a trajectory very similar to what DC did. And this experiment only worked because they took they went Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk, Thor, Captain America, and gave us a lot of the characters that people weren't really clamoring about. And meanwhile, they were still other companies were still making Spider-Man and X-Men movies, and they didn't have access to some of those characters. And it kind of forced them to make some of these other characters, to even reinvent a lot of these characters that were less iconic. I mean, Tony Stark didn't have quite as much, somebody's going to at me on this, but like Tony Stark was not as interesting a character as he is now, even in the comics. Prior to Robert Downey Jr. making that character his own, people started caring about Iron Man. Like Iron Man is some people's favorite superhero now. That was really not the case for a lot of people before. He was originally created kind of as a douchey ultimate capitalist kind of just rich prick kind of thing. Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
So they cast Robert Downey Jr.
It's kind of great casting.
But I think they were forced to write good stories. Like the fact of this being a shared universe and we're going to put all of these superheroes in together wasn't a foregone conclusion. Nobody knew it was going to work. So they had to, it was really, they were all the way through phase 1 before they realized that, like, they had finished the first Avengers movie before they realized like that wasn't going to be where this whole experiment would end. And now in phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, we know that there's a good chance that it might never end. But
so what you're saying is they didn't blow their proverbial wad on like the big characters first. They kind of built up to that.
And now we have Spider-Man in the MCU, but we have a version of Spider-Man that didn't need to be established and isn't having to really carry even his own franchise himself, because even the Spider-Man standalone movies are still existing in this. Like, I mean, Spider-Man Homecoming was, had a pretty good amount of screen time for Iron Man as well. And so there is an argument to be made for Marvel. Even Marvel is getting away from their movies being able to be self-contained. I mean, I don't think like the third Captain America movie wasn't a Captain America movie in the practical sense at all. Like it was kind of an Avengers spinning kind of movie. But there's something to be said for that, like being able to just go see a movie and it not relying on you having seen a whole lot of other movies or bothering to set up a whole lot of movies that won't happen for 3 or 4 more years. But this is a throwback, we've talked about this before, to sort of the serialized format. But this is not a new thing. Like, movie serials used to be this way. This is just at a much slower pace because serials used to be weekly.
Right.
But it's at I think the more direct analog to serials is like long-form television.
Agreed.
But
agreed.
Like Game of Thrones and stuff like that. But this is more of that format where they can plan these things 15, 20 years in advance, knowing that they can, in some cases, pull that off. Now, in other cases, they can plan 20 years worth of Universal Monsters movies and only get halfway through The Mummy before they realize that this was a horrible, this was a terrible idea. But I think the biggest misstep that DC made, in my opinion, is that they didn't start their shared universe with like The Flash.
Agreed.
Or start with Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Start with Aquaman. Mm-hmm. Make it so that when we're 5 movies in and Batman shows up, we're stoked because Batman at this point hasn't had a movie in a decade.
Yeah.
And the idea is now we're taking Batman, a character we already know, and putting him in a context where he's going to bounce off of characters we have grown to enjoy, just like we did with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, we care about this Spider-Man because of his relationships to the other people. And that's... like they've not like I think they got to Justice League way too fast. I think this Aquaman movie would have been more interesting if it came out of nowhere and they were like, this Aquaman movie is going to lay the groundwork for other movies that'll come
and we
up.
would be like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new DC. Look at this guy. Like,
right? Yeah,
that would have been really cool.
Yeah, and let Batman maybe be the one that like is discovering all of the like. Let's see the story that happened between Batman v Superman. Like let Batman's entry into the series be what we saw, the story we didn't see between Batman v Superman and Justice League, where maybe he's the one figuring out that all these metahumans are out there instead of Wonder Woman being the one doing that.
Right.
Like let Batman be the one kind of putting those pieces together, and we meet Batman by him being like, I got to keep track of these people. That kind of thing would be interesting, I think. But we'll see how Aquaman does. I mean, it'll either go the way of Wonder Woman or it'll go the way of the rest of this crap.
Yeah, that's true.
Glass, which is the third in the M. Night Shyamalan series of vague superhero-esque stuff, which probably the less we say about that, the better, just because who knows?
It's always a crapshoot with him.
With M. Night Shyamalan, it's either going to be amazing or it's going to be awful. So we'll find out.
Literally no in between.
There's no in
That's
between.
so true.
But we have roles being reprised by Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis and James McAvoy. So it'll be cool to see that. Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald was trailered. And is there anybody that likes the idea that's a fan of Johnny Depp being Grindelwald in that series?
I don't think so.
I don't think anybody does.
Is Johnny Depp still a thing?
Yeah, he is. Like, he's still...
Haven't we all gotten over Johnny Depp? I figured we had.
I know.
I really thought Hollywood might, considering a lot of baggage that comes along with.
Yeah, he just kind of went insane there.
Yeah,
it's totally not cool. I mean, and
all of his movies recently have bombed. Bombed.
Well, and as an aside that I think is relevant to what we're talking about, I think it's incredibly unfair what's happening to James Gunn, given the fact that Disney does not seem to have a single problem with Johnny Depp being, who Johnny Depp is.
Yeah.
Do we want to broach that subject?
Of James Gunn?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, because we haven't discussed it on the show.
No.
And
go for it.
I think everybody knows.
Yeah. Well, for anybody who doesn't know, the short version is James Gunn, who is the helmer of the Guardians of the Galaxy property within Marvel, was fired by Disney from Guardians of the Galaxy 3, presumably just because they have a very strict image policy on their brands.
Right. But he got in trouble for some off-color jokes and some, I guess they were vaguely, they were vaguely racist.
Pedophilic.
They were kind of pedophile. Okay.
They weren't really racist. They were they were rape and pedophilia jokes.
And they were done a long time ago.
And they were not funny.
No.
He was called out for them years ago, before he took over the Guardians franchise.
Has completely disavowed them.
He's apologized.
Apologized profusely.
I mean, they were horrible jokes. They were in bad taste. I don't think anybody's defending those jokes. But I think the conceit of this is...
has the Me Too movement gone too far? That's the narrative that ends up coming
it's two things. It's two things. It's the fact... It's a confluence of two issues. One is that... Disney fired him more as a matter of principle than a matter of anything else, because you can't Google the director of one of their family movies and the first thing that pops up be, rape, pedophilia jokes, that kind of thing, which I get. But again, at the same time, that's a little hypocritical when you consider what comes up when you Google Johnny Depp these days. But
and not along the same lines, but what happens when you Google Robert Downey Jr.? I mean, he had a checkered past.
Absolutely.
Not the same stuff, but
I think the conversation around this is first, what's the point of social justice if we never allow people to change? Like if we always hold people accountable for who they used to be and the things they used to do, then what's the point of if we're not trying to inspire people to be better people, why are there social justice movements anyway? It's just about kind of being angry if there's not a goal of can people can men learn to be better men?
And he came out and he was like, look, this was bad stuff.
Oh, he's one of the only people that has never made a statement to the effect of this is unfair or I shouldn't.
No.
He pretty much stepped down and said okay, it's fair. I'll take my lumps. I did say those things. They were unacceptable. I'm not.
But who hasn't made very off-color jokes in private before? We all have.
Yeah.
I've said stuff that
I haven't. I've never made a
Cartoon definitely
joke.
has. like right before you got here. But they're
right before we were on the air.
We've said things on the air that guarantee we will never direct Marvel movies. But
yeah.
But
I mean, even Renee, who is my favorite social justice, is it okay to say social justice warrior in a insulting context?
non-asshole way?
I honestly don't know.
No, but I get it. she
defended
she
him.
gets this too, and the entire cast. Which, of course, I think if Robert Downey Jr. and people like that start throwing their weight around, we might actually see one of the first instances of somebody being I think it's possible that he could be rehired. And there's a huge movement to get him rehired, because the other thing that we haven't mentioned yet is the fact that this all came about as a very deliberate assassination, a social media assassination by people
on the right,
on the far right. And James Gunn is a very outspoken opponent of the current presidential administration. And there are people who are sort of dry running. Can we basically dredge something up from somebody's past and through Twitter bots and things like that, create a movement that can basically wreck that person's life? And by many, many accounts, this is a dry run for a similar initiative against Kathleen Kennedy, who is the head of Lucasfilm. And, a lot of the alt-right douche nozzles are, regardless of somebody's personal opinion about The Last Jedi and the social justice themes and all of that in the new Star Wars movies, which we've talked about on the show already as being kind of a dick thing. There are a lot of people who think Kathleen Kennedy gets death threats, a lot of which boil down to this is what happens when you let a woman run Star Wars.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and so this is the world we live in, and what we've seen with James Gunn gives us pause, because it shows that people can dredge up a big enough stink that a studio will fire somebody. A studio like Disney will fire somebody. And me, I want to see Disney personally. I mean, I'll soapbox because it's our show. I want to see Disney rehire James Gunn and say, "We're Disney. What's anybody gonna do? What are you gonna do? Boycott? I think more people would boycott.
No. They're not gonna do that.
They would never say that.
Like Marvel fans are going to see Guardians 3. They're not gonna not go see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. They are going to see it. And
look, I used to own a business. I've been here, and one of my mantras was always, do not ever mix business and politics.
Right.
Because you don't want to alienate half of your, potential clientele. And I think that Disney is being overly cautious here. I kind of understand where they're coming from, but it does bring up the whole discussion of when do we go too far?
But as the largest media conglomerate now on the face of the earth, maybe next to Viacom or something like that, Disney is a monolith
next to anybody.
I think the conceit from the far right, and I'm trying not to make this a political conversation, but the alt-right, the instigators of this kind of thing is basically we can grassroots take down Disney. We can grassroots take down somebody at Disney. We can influence Disney's business decisions because they don't want to lose money on a future movie. Disney think Disney should understand that they will lose, like it does more damage to their brand to do things like firing James Gunn and bringing this conversation to a head than it is to just release a statement that says we don't support or endorse the things that James Gunn has said in the past. Neither does he, but we and the rest of the staff stand behind him as a director. And barring evidence coming out that he actually did any of this stuff that now is in the narrative, in which case, of course, we'll just turn him over to the authorities. That's like screw that guy. But in terms of having made those off-color jokes, I don't think if their concern, which is I think the platform being made by the right, is that Disney doesn't want to take on the government because the government, and by the government I mean the president, like the government could hurt Disney. I say they haven't been paying a whole lot of attention, because if you were to, if I had the choice between going up against the presidential administration or going up against the Disney Corporation, I would be in Washington right now.
Yeah. That's the truth.
I don't think the president, I don't think, not saying that, they wouldn't make a stupid decision, but I don't think the presidential administration is going to go after Disney. And even if they did,
I don't know, man. They're going after Amazon. They're going after
they would
CNN. They're going after.
They would totally go after Disney, and they literally leveled.
But
they literally tried to screw up the merger between Time Warner and AT&T over.
But we're all worried about Russia interfering with elections. Look, if Disney wanted
80% of us
if Disney wanted Captain Crunch to be president, we would all be having a different favorite cereal next month. Like Disney can, if
I love Captain Crunch.
Like if Disney if Disney decided to get political, I think Disney could hurt the president more than the president could hurt Disney.
I don't know, man. I'm starting to think that Teflon Don is literally made of Teflon, and that nothing will ever bring that motherfucker down.
Yeah, but one word.
Have hope, Matt. Have hope.
I don't.
But one word from Disney, and Robert Downey Jr. would be running for president.
Oh my God, I would vote for him.
I would not vote for Robert Downey Jr. for president.
I would. He's so hot.
No, this is what got us in the problem in the first place. TV.
What people thought Donald Trump was hot.
TV and movie stars. Let's not elect them to president.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, I mean, you know what you're doing is you're kind of making the in a roundabout way. You're kind of making the don't negotiate with terrorist argument.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas if you capitulate once,
right, then
they know that you will capitulate again, and you're training them.
In a case now where we even know who their next target is likely to be, we're just now watching it play out, and exactly like you've shown that yes, the intended result can happen. I don't I really do hope that there's a rehiring that happens and that we kind of see this come around. But that's, I mean, tweet at us, or maybe don't. I don't know. But
dude, tweet at us. I'm never scared of anybody's what their opinions are.
Tweet at Matt. Comment.
I didn't see Matt J. Bring it on. I'll talk to you.
Tweet at us. Comment at us. Let us know what you think about the whole James Gunn situation. Because if we get a lot of good comments about it, we'll talk more about it next episode. Yeah, I'm sure there will be developments by then. A couple of other things coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. The Star Wars: The Clone Wars is coming back as is being revived into an additional season, so that series has a chance to actually conclude, which it didn't when the Disney merger happened.
First run syndication, or is it going to be on one of the Disney channels?
It's going to be on Disney's new streaming service.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Suck it up and pay $6.99 a month, Matt.
Okay, I realize I said that in the earlier episode, and kudos for you for throwing it back in my face. I deserve that. But in the same respect, I hate where we were so close to that utopia of having two things where you can find everything, and now we're fracturing back out again because everybody's got to have their hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah, and this thing's gonna I mean, DC has their streaming app that's coming out too. At which point we won't be able to have any of the Netflix is going to be severely hit because right now Netflix has all of the CW. It has The Flash, it has Arrow, it has Supergirl, it has Legends of Tomorrow.
Got a bunch of Disney stuff too.
It has all the Star Wars. It has not all, but it has the more recent Star Wars. It has all the Marvel stuff comes to Netflix, and we're going to see all of those things, of course, sucked off of Netflix and assigned onto these services. Of course, with the Fox merger, Disney will also own The Simpsons and Family Guy and American Dad, and which things that are now on Hulu and won't be on Hulu any longer.
Everybody who was, including me, was like, "Fuck cable! I'm just going to have Netflix."
Yeah.
And just pay $10 a month instead of $100 a month. Now you're going to be paying $100 a month again because you're going to be paying for.
Well, yeah, and the Disney streaming app is going to be one of the better.
DC.
Is going to be one of the more valuable ones because so many things belong to Disney that I think a lot of the other services will seem anemic if you don't get Disney. And of course, if 20th Century Fox is absorbed into Disney, then that's even more. I mean, poor Netflix is going to have like Netflix original stuff, and that's about it.
And poor Hulu.
Hulu's
going to lose all the Fox content, which is a big chunk of Hulu right now.
It's a huge
chunk of Hulu. And Hulu, they're just going to change it to like Hulu. Come here for The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
And that's it.
I mean, Hulu is eventually going to. They're trying. They're getting back. They're making their own good high quality originals.
Yeah.
Amazon is too. Although Amazon, we should have a streaming over the top episode because I got strong feelings on how shitty Amazon Prime interface and everything is.
Let's do it next week.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
But because this is something we should all talk about.
Yeah.
But I mean, Netflix is making a good effort at it. A lot of their content is like Netflix originals, and the great thing is that stuff's never going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, exactly.
Now the DC app is going to. Now I'm thrilled that they're going to finish Clone Wars because one of the sore points of Clone Wars is that it did have a follow-up series, Star Wars Rebels, but Clone Wars was like they put the brakes on mid-production on the last season of Clone Wars, or the more recent. Look, it wasn't.
What year was that?
2012. It was when Disney bought.
A while ago.
It was when Disney bought Lucasfilm,
yeah.
And started production on new movies and everything. But they just basically, there was the most recent season of Star Wars, Clone Wars, was in production. And there were people like animating episodes, and like voice work was done, and stories were written, and they had the whole series mapped, the next 2 seasons mapped out and everything, and they just put the brakes on. And the series, some of those threads were followed up on in comics and books and things of that nature, but not on the screen. And then they were further expanded into some of the storylines that were picked up in Star Wars Rebels, which was a sequel series.
Yeah.
But that series never really got to end. And so the announcement that they will do that Disney is greenlighting with a final season of Star Wars Clone Wars is almost like the Star Wars Firefly that like canceled too soon.
Yeah.
Like the idea that it's finally going to get to wrap up. And that's a great announcement. You mentioned streaming, and I can't think of streaming without talking about the DC service that's going to launch. One of the shows that they're using to launch that is called Titans, and it's basically a grown-up, gritty Teen Titans reboot, which is very strange that the 2 shows that will be on with Titans that will be on about that group of characters are Teen Titans Go, which is like a chibi, like toddler-focused series.
The Muppet Babies.
Kinda, yeah. And then, but it's loosely based on the Teen Titans, the more teenage-oriented Teen Titans show from 10 plus years ago. Mm-hmm. That kind of came in the wake of the DC animated universe. When that ended, the next thing was Teen Titans, which was a little more anime influenced than Teen Titans Go, which is more like Powerpuff Girls or like influence.
Gotcha. Yeah.
A lot of self-referential things. It's like most of those shows. It's written for multiple audiences, but Teen Titans Go has a movie in theaters right now. It's an animated movie in theaters right now. But then the announcement of Titans, which you saw the trailer for, cartoon. Did you see the trailer for Titans, Matt?
I've seen it referenced, but I haven't watched it.
It's like trailer. Robin like killing a bunch of people. And going, where's Batman? Oh, fuck Batman, and like it honestly to me looks like nothing more. It looks like nothing so much as. Do you guys remember a couple of years back when somebody on YouTube made like a short film that was like the gritty Power Rangers reboot, where like half the Power Rangers have been murdered and like they were all trying to like.
God, that sounds awful.
It was this idea of like it was almost tongue in cheek, but I don't think it was supposed to be. But this really looks like it's gritty, but not in like the right ways. Like it's Teen Titans. Teen Titans is not really supposed to be a really dark property. So this looks like they're going almost the Superman, like the Man of Steel route, but even more so, where they take a character, like characters that are supposed to be kind of upbeat, and they make them really scary. And I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Yeah, and then finally, I think the last thing we wanted to mention was the Buffy reboot.
Yeah, but let's save that for next time, because we're still getting details coming in.
Yeah.
About what that could be. So
cool.
Because it's not a reboot.
Because it's not a reboot.
Right? Yeah, it's
exactly.
a continuation.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it? When did
That's what I read.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so stuff is still coming in, so we're going to continue diving into this, and we'll check in with this next week.
Okay. So it's like the Buffy relaunch.
No, it's not a relaunch.
No.
It's a sequel. It's
a Buffy sequel.
Same universe.
Okay.
Time is advanced, but Sarah Michelle Gellar
That probably means
will probably show up.
That's probably something where we'll see then. Because I think at one point Joss Whedon, I think when it was a reboot, Joss Whedon wasn't involved, and now that Joss Whedon is involved again, maybe that means it'll have a similar tone, something like that.
We will see.
It'll be cool. All right, guys. Well, we'll talk more about that next week, and then a lot more about the landscape of streaming, which Matt will bring to you.
I have some strong, that might be a great episode for me to bring on one of my friends, Jamie Parker, who now he moved out to Los Angeles because he's trying to pitch television shows right now, and he seems to he keeps hinting on Facebook that he is super, and I'm not saying he's pitching shows to Channel 42 in Omaha, Nebraska. He's having meetings with Netflix, Hulu, HBO, the big networks. So I'd love to talk to him about what he can say about that, but also he has some very strong feelings on streaming as well.
Yeah,
so,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I might see if I can get him on live from Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Let's do that.
Well, thanks for joining us today, guys.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you guys more next week with all of those things and more right here on Figures Sold Separately.
Oh my God, it was Jesus Christ.
Until then, I'm Ken.
Somebody take Ken home.
I'm Matt.
I'm Car2.
Till then, guys.
Bye.
Figures Sold Separately is a multiverse podcast produced by TurboFanProductions.com. Please remember to subscribe to the show and follow and talk with us on Facebook and Twitter. Our theme music is by I Fight Dragons. Hear more about them at ifightdragons.com. Figures Sold Separately is copyright 2018, all rights reserved.